Welcome back to the show, the things that boomers fixate on that nobody else seems to care about. On today's topic, why every MMO wants to be everything, and by doing so ends up being a lot less than everything for everyone. There's a familiar feeling, you know, when you get into an MMO for the very first time. I'm talking like right now, 2025, 2026. The world feels really expansive. The interface is really clean, the UI, people are getting it, the systems are all there. You got crafting, you got housing, you got PvP, raids, dungeons, seasonal events, achievements, collectibles. Nothing is missing, at least on paper. And yet, after a few hours of playing the game, sometimes after a few weeks, although that's being optimistic, you realize something feels off. It's not like it's broken, it's not like the game is frustrating you or anything. It just feels like, for some reason, despite all the systems, despite its expansive world, the game is paper thin. You don't feel especially needed by the world that you inhabit with your character. You don't feel anchored to that world. You don't feel like the game is really asking anything specific of you beyond just continuing participation, if you were in the middle of a kindergarten class. And the truth of the matter is, this feeling isn't accidental. It's the result of attention at the heart of modern MMO design, the desire to appeal to everyone versus the need to stand for something in particular, something very specific, something niche. Every MMO right now wants to be the one that you can play forever and ever, that supports every playstyle, the one where no player ever feels excluded. You know, you got things for solo players, things for hardcore raiders, things for PvPers, things for casuals, things for crafters, things for decorators, for lore fans. It's all accounted for. The problem, however, is that MMOs aren't just a content library. They're shared worlds. They're shared worlds that need identity. They need friction, like we talked about in previous videos if you've been watching, and a clear expectation to feel alive. A current trend in many modern theme park MMOs where flexibility has become the highest design value. You know, classes are more self-sufficient than ever. We talked about this before, where one class can pretty much do everything. Progression paths kind of blur together as you all go through the same zones in the same order, doing the same quests. And most of the systems become really optional. It's a matter of whether you feel like doing it that day or not, unless it's something tied to achievements or raids. But essentially, you can tank, heal, or deal damage depending on your build, even if you're playing on the same character. You can craft without relying on anybody else. If it's a story-based MMO, you can experience the main storyline entirely alone. This accessibility makes the game easier to approach, no doubt, and it encompasses way more people. But I also think it flattens the experience. When everyone can do everything, roles lose their weight. You know, the classes, the jobs, whatever you want to call them, and the players become interchangeable rather than interdependent. And I think this is what older MMOs understood better because they took a different approach. Games like EverQuest or even Final Fantasy XI made strong, sometimes uncomfortable choices. Sometimes the leveling was slow. Sometimes the death penalties were harsh. Sometimes travel took a little bit more time. Many classes were weak on their own, but they were essential in groups. Certain areas could simply just not be tackled without cooperating together. These limitations, again, weren't oversights. It wasn't part of outdated design. They were structural decisions put there on purpose. They forced players into relationships with one another and the world itself. You didn't log in asking what content you should consume that day. You logged in wondering who might need your help or where you might be needed next, what sort of adventure you would embark on next. Something we touched upon in my Getting Lost video. It seems like modern MMOs also exist in a very different market nowadays. They aren't just competing with other MMOs anymore, but they're competing now with every single live service game that's available. Every seasonal model, every platform designed to capture attention indefinitely. And I think as a result, MMOs have started borrowing systems from everywhere else. Battle passes, survival mechanics, ARPG style loop systems, cozy game housing systems, competitive ladders, microtransactions, you name it. Each edition makes sense on its own, but together they kind of blur the game's identity. The MMO becomes a checklist of activities rather than a place with a distinct character, a clear design, a structured world, something that the developers thought up that would be a compelling place to visit and exist in. This leads to a broader truth that's kind of uncomfortable to admit. Most MMOs don't struggle because they like content, as some people might say. They actually struggle, in my opinion, because they lack conviction. Designing for everybody means avoiding strong opinions, and avoiding strong opinions means, again, avoiding friction. But friction, like we talked about in my video, you should probably check that out to make more sense of this, is what gives a world meaning. The most memorable MMOs weren't designed to include everyone in the same way. They were designed around a clear vision of what the world was supposed to be and what it demanded from players. That clarity came, obviously, with some trade-offs, and not everyone stayed, sure, but those who did formed deeper connections. They created memories, if you will. When everything in MMO becomes optional, part of a checklist that you just have to fill out, community becomes very shallow. Progression becomes a mechanical process where you just have to be the most efficient, and you get the parsers and the people who do things the best. And that's the only type of gameplay you'll find. And I think identity becomes more of a cosmetic thing. Players don't build lasting memories around efficiency or convenience as much as they would like to make you believe that on YouTube. They remember the inconvenience. They remember the dependence, the mistakes, and the moments where the game forced them to rely on each other. By trying to remove every single obstacle, modern MMOs often remove the very conditions that allow stories to form. And stories, if you know, human beings, tracing back all the way to our start, except for me, I'm a goblin, but we also got stories. Stories are what we rely on. It's what we built our entire culture around. Our social interactions are the stories we carry together. First verbally, then through history books, TV shows, and more. So maybe the issue isn't that MMOs are too big or too complex or require too much money to make. Maybe it's that they're being too careful. They're trying to check all the boxes at the same time. Too many are afraid to say that, you know, this game is slow, or it's social first, or it requires some patience of you, or you might actually have to play with other people and depend on them. Not every MMO needs to be for everyone. And perhaps the next truly memorable one will be the game that accepts that reality. A game willing to exclude in order to deepen, to lose some players in the beginning in order to give the rest something worth to hold on to. The quieter question isn't why MMOs don't feel the same anymore, but what they gave up so that no one would ever feel left out, and whether that trade-off decision was actually worth it. Hopefully we've answered this on this video. If not, or if you have other ideas, feel free to drop them down below. Keep in mind that this is a really long video, but if you're going to essay in the comments section, if you're going to drop like 6 or 7 or 8 paragraphs, ain't nobody got time for that. So make it snappy. I'll be checking out what you have to say, but of course, keep it concise. I'll see you guys in the next one. Hopefully this is enjoyable. Do all the YouTube things. It really helps out the channel, and come check us out by the streams. We might be doing some late night streaming now because, you know, work getting in the way. Can't live off of as a creator anyway. All sorts of problems, and it does to generate the squats out.